All right, hello, Cheerskevin here, and welcome back to AstroBlock. And I have a confession. Today is actually going to be the final episode of our playthrough of AstroBlock, and I want to take just a little bit of a walk around, and kind of take a moment to sort of explain my reasoning, kind of give this thing a proper send off. But yeah, I started actually recording an episode where we went over to Jupiter and started trying to make some progress. We now have, we spent the last several episodes working on infrastructure stuff, and our infrastructure is amazing. We were able to just get anti-rads and get baked potatoes kind of while we're out and about on planets and stuff, and that's very cool. But I went to Jupiter, went to go hunting around for ores, hunting around for dungeons, went through a dungeon, fought the boss in the dungeon, and of course, it dropped a blueprint that we can't use. It doesn't do anything. It was for an ion cannon or something like that, which there's no ion cannon. There's a schematic for an ion cannon, but there's no ion cannon. And so I went out and I was looking for yet another dungeon, and I was realizing, you know what? This is a series that has caused a fair amount of frustration, and if I continue working on the series, it's going to continue to cause a lot of frustration. And it's not anything, particularly with the MODPACK or with any particular mod. It's just kind of the relationship that I happen to have to it. And so rather than do that and subject you to that and subject subject myself to it, frankly, figure it's best to kind of hang up on here. So let's head back to the station real quick, and we'll just sort of walk through some of the stuff that we had initially done, yeah. So of course we started. I tend to like to. I mean, I've only formally said goodbye to another series. I really apologize to the people who are really enjoying Septec and maybe really enjoying this series and are now like, well, what the heck are you doing? But yeah, obviously we started out on the station. We started this was kind of only just barely in what was marketed as perhaps a stable release, not necessarily as stable. There were very few people playing it, and part of that is on me for kind of jumping in and saying, hey, I want to mess around with this because I wanted to get in early before a whole bunch of other folks had as well. There have been several there've been plenty of updates kind of since, and the whole progression has been restructured several times. So you see even the basic escaping the asteroids, basic civing, we don't have quest rewards for because we would need all of the different types of meshes and stuff. And of course we've long transcended that. We built ourselves a very basic storage system. We of course had up here are the random tree with the oxygen collector and stuff, and we had this very, very lag-inducing tree farm and some cool mechanism stuff. We extended out the butt of this thing, and built ourselves a potato/oxygen farm out there as well, and then eventually a mob farm inside as well, which was a lot of fun. One of the things that I honestly feel like the points of friction for me are a little bit to do with the MODPACK. I think it's largely, though, to do with Galacticraft and extra planets. There are some things like the compressor that are, well, not so much the compressor, just the recipes. They're just so very, very grindy. Building the next tier of rocket is, it's brutal, right? And it's not super easy to automate stuff with the compressor. Now, of course, if we had more, we could spend a lot of time setting up more RF tools control stuff. We could throw a lot of patterns into our ME system, but a lot of the patterns and stuff are gated behind having, or a lot of the resources for applied energistics are gated behind doing a lot of mining and resource gathering and getting to other planets as well, which makes that a little bit of a non-starter. But yeah, so that's kind of a point of, oh yeah, we're leaking air. That's fine. Yeah, this one's just complaining because it's like, hey, there was no air in there. Just now, one thing that I will say about the MODPACK, and I don't know if this is necessarily a flaw, but one of the things that became a bit of a challenge for me is not really knowing where we were supposed to set up our base, right? Because we had now, and for some reason this warp core has disappeared from this teleporter, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there. So we'll have to use we'll have to rely on our transporter to go to places. Let's go to the moon real quick because we were there. We set up this very temporary sort of thing, kind of giving us a bit of a bit of an area to hang out in. But because there are all these planets and stuff, there's the sense of, okay, well, we spend a bunch of time in the asteroids, kind of building up resources and trying to figure out whether to escape, and figuring out, are we supposed to stay in the asteroids, or is the idea that you're escaping and then you come home and you set up a base there? What and obviously that's got to be open to interpretation, but it's also it's difficult to know what exactly. I mean, I'm sure that people would make different choices, but it's difficult to know where to invest your time if it's without knowing. Oh, okay, well, the majority of these resources are going to be available on the overworld, for example, or what? Actually, we want to rush to get through all these planets as fast as possible to gather up a bunch of ores before really settling down or whatever. Trying to figure out where best to invest the time between sort of base building and infrastructure. Versus exploration, and trying to find the balance there. And that's an area where I personally struggled, not necessarily something that the MODPACK kind of has responsibility for, but it would have been helpful to get some hints as far as and who knows, maybe what the MODPACK would have suggested would have been something that I would have disagreed with anyway, so who knows. Let's go to I'm trying to think if there's anything really well, let's go to Venus real quick, because why not? We'll just fly through some of the planets and kind of explore. Venus, of course, was one of the first areas where we encountered some significant issues, because radiation was significant here. And the big thing, and this is a terrain generation thing for me, is that finding the dungeons is a nightmare. Now, and this is true on Jupiter as well. I suspect, on Jupiter at least, that sometimes because the lava is very fast flowing there, I suspect that the lava actually ends up leaking into a fair amount of those entrances, and so there are plenty of them that are easy to pass over. But it's very easy to lose these. In fact, the mod author had to give us this creative only dungeon. Oh, it says lies. Okay, I wonder if they added that. That this thing lies. But I've had to go. So yeah, I mean, you can see there that was 7,000 blocks of travel. And of course, this is using the steel jetpack. Now the mod author has now introduced the spacesuit jetpacks, which are available. The annoying thing about the spacesuit jetpacks, they do prevent you from gathering crazy radiation at a crazy speed, which is great. But there's no hover for these jetpacks. They are very. It's very easy to crater with these. I've got to be very, very careful. And this was only kind of just recently added in. That kind of rather than use the steel jetpacks, you can put on the full spacesuit, and then you're actually protected fairly well from radiation. It'll still build up slowly over time, but it's not anywhere near kind of the crazy levels that we were encountering in on say Mercury, for example. But yeah, so a little bit of a mixed bag there. Again, that's not really a MODPACK issue. It's just an issue with the mods. The radiation management is a pain in the butt. Now, I know that there were there are some issues, like if you put in the thermal controller in the oxygen sealer, it will prevent you from gathering radiation while you're in your enclosed area. But that only sort of half fixes the problem, because that's not something that I did, because I didn't understand that's what it was doing. But that only solves half the issue, because we still have the fact that we need to explore and gather resources and stuff, and particularly when we're just going around mining for resources, we're not necessarily. So you can see we're gonna get radiation pretty darn quickly out here. Now, of course, if I switched to the pressure suit, then we'd gain it much slower. But we're gathering resources, then we're, grabbing the digital miner, popping over somewhere else, putting the digital miner down. There's not really an easy way to just go, okay, well, let's move our quarry back and forth, inside a sealed area. So it doesn't entirely solve the issue. What I did find very fun, though, and very enjoyable, was actually setting up our base infrastructure once I finally said, okay, well, we're on the overworld. Obviously, when we had, at the time that we got to the overworld, the overworld was a lot more dangerous, and we died kind of on entry multiple times, and of course, trying to get some of the, I think we had to, the moon, we had to get the discovery papers for the moon in here, and it was harrowing. Part of this is just I'm terrible at combat, although I like to think I've gotten maybe a little bit better. Who knows? But, once we got here, I said, okay, we're going to dig down and we're going to build a cave and we're going to, we're just going to set up a house. We're going to say, hey, we're setting up shop here. I'm not going to worry about trying to get back to the asteroid dimension. Now, of course, the fact that Station Home is available does kind of indicate that maybe the goal is for you to set up your base in the asteroid dimension. I don't know. Then, of course, we did set up our amazing power system, which is very exciting, which, producing with Cactus and the Deep Mob Learning, which, honestly, Deep Mob Learning is a fantastic mod. And it was fun, really fun to play with that. I love the way that this is set up. And there are kind of some endgame stuff with Deep Mob Learning that we didn't get into that I would love to play with at some point in a different context. Of course, all of that producing blazing pyrotheum that we can use to combust and all of that, and of course producing iron as a byproduct, and it was very, very exciting to set that up. Really loved being able to go through and kind of set up all these pipelines, and obviously, every series that I'm playing, there are a couple of mods that I have very little experience with, and when we started this, there were a lot of mods that I have very little experience with, and so dealing with some of the weird things about mechanism, dealing with some of the, particularly the transporters having a little bit of weirdness. I think now I tend to favor thermal expansion stuff whenever I can, because it just seems to always consistently work in the way that I expect it to. Maybe that's just my brain happens to go that way. But setting up all of these pipelines and trying to get all of that was a lot of fun. And yeah, again, the compressor, the circuit fabricator, a lot of these are, let's say, well, the metallurgy infuser is a mechanism thing, not a galactic wrap thing. Circuit fabricators also, it's cool. It just really feels like, man, once you get past the early game or the early mid game, you really want to have, you want to have a way to sort of automate this in a cleaner way. And aside from spending a lot of time debugging RF Tools control scripts, I'm not sure of the best way to do that. Now, of course, I should point out that the MODPACK does have, they had it in here. Oh, did they take it out? No, there it is. Open computers. So we could have gone ahead and dove into writing Lua scripts. I decided not to go down that route. I'm not necessarily not necessarily ruling out the idea of doing more open computers or computer craft stuff at some point down the road. It just wasn't the right time for me. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time debugging Lua scripts at the moment. But yeah. Then of course we set up our new base, and that's basically what we've been doing the last several episodes, in the hope that we'd be able to get enough infrastructure in place to make some of the exploration stuff less miserable. And unfortunately, it's just really starting to feel like it's not going to offset. And so I am really proud of kind of where this kind of factory floor ended up, and would love to explore it more. Although I'm starting to realize that because of the limitations, put on applied energistics and stuff, just based on trying to get us to visit more planets and stuff, to do more of the exploration. There are places where we could explore some of these automation things. There are mod packs that are perhaps better suited to playing around with automation, and this one's really more of trying to strike a balance between exploration and stuff that is not really where I want to be right now, and is causing me a lot of frustration. The other thing I should have mentioned this when we were on Mercury is just the exoplanet's texture seemed to be a little kind of lackluster. If there's one thing, and I know this has been I've seen on subreddits and stuff that people have complained about galactic craft and exoplanets in the past, that there's not enough of a reason to go to those dimensions. And I think that on the one hand, this mod pack does a good job of trying to give you an incentive, because it's saying, hey, go here, get these ores, and go to the dungeons and defeat the bosses so that you can go to the next planet. So it's trying to kind of gate you through them. But the result, especially, now we have the digital miner, which is helpful. Basically, we fly there, we drop the thing down, we turn it on, we let it mine up some stuff, and then we go somewhere else. Now, of course, we kind of had to do that, though, because for a while, we were gaining radiation so fast that unless you did have something that was going to be supplying you, like an ender pouch, with your anti-radiation drugs, you couldn't spend a whole bunch of time just kind of out there willy-nilly mining. So kind of manual mining was it wasn't feasible. So fair enough. I will say, as well, I do want to point out that I have huge amount of respect for the mod author. They've done so many, sorry, the MODPACK author. They've done so many updates to try and balance this and try and find the areas where people were struggling or areas where people were encountering issues. And I think myself included. I think there are some areas where, and perhaps I've shown, hey, this is what an idiot can end up doing without better guidance. And they've tried to make corrections to compensate for my stupidity, which is helpful. It's very much appreciated. But ultimately, yeah, it's becoming too. It's just too grindy, and the exploration, the endless compressor recipes are just killing me. And I think that everybody's time would be better served either watching other people who are playing AstroBlock, which there are plenty out there, and I will probably link a few down in the description, or I don't know, checking out some of the other stuff that I'm doing, or playing perhaps this yourself. Definitely interested to see what other people are doing in the space. But I think that is going to do it for me. I think we've kind of had an opportunity to explore all of the stuff we've been able to do in this series. It has been a lot of fun, kind of being here from pretty early after this mod pack was released, and kind of seeing it through till now. I'm sorry that we didn't get to kind of make more progress, but yeah, I'm sure that this is very much in capable hands, and that is going to do it. So I do apologize for those who are very invested in the series and want to see it continue. Maybe at some point, kind of like SevTech, if there's a reason that we really want to pop in here and kind of explore a little bit, maybe we will. But for now, I think we will set this aside and focus on some of the other stuff on the channel. So that is going to do it for me. I appreciate your understanding. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you sometime soon. Cheers.